Well, this is some of the mayhem, of course, happening here in the foyer of the House of Commons immediately after the speeches. Now, the House has just adjourned. The Liberals gave a brief response. A couple of questions, that's all it was. After Mr. Flaherty's budget speech, John McCallum stood up for the Liberals, Libby Davis for the NDP, and, of course, the Bloc had their question. So not much happening now inside the House, but lots happening outside. And, of course, the speculation over the last hour or so has been whether, in fact, this budget would bring down the Harper government. Well, we didn't know that for a few minutes until we heard the Bloc Québécois actually would be supporting the budget. Now, once they support it, that means the Conservatives, of course, have enough votes to get this thing passed. So it doesn't per se mean an election. However, the NDP and the Liberals are both opposing the budget. I think that maybe gives a little bit of a signal here that Harper didn't get exactly the response that he anticipated, particularly from the NDP. We'll see. But on this particular point, no election. However, that doesn't mean at all that an election is not going to be forthcoming, as I talked about earlier in the day. In fact, we fully expect there's going to be another measure or two brought in the next few days that actually will trigger an election, and this now becomes a giant piece of the Conservative election platform. So stay tuned, because actually this is precisely what we're seeing today, and that is shoe number one dropping in the election campaign of 2007.
Well, we will certainly be unable to support the budget as presented here, because it just simply makes the prosperity gap wider. And that's not the kind of Canada we believe the Canadians want to build. The average working family sitting at the kitchen table was expecting something more than just crumbs from the Prime Minister. It's the boardroom table that got the big gift.
That should have been back in the pocket of the people. The middle class, their main concerns, health care, students, child care, about almost nothing. Last year they cut $5 billion in the program for the environment. They bring it back today, but without no plan. With no plan, and nothing to be sure that the polluters pay. This is very, very troubling for me. About training, competitiveness, the necessity to have a stronger economy. No plan, nothing about that. And finally, provinces. This is the main smear of this budget. In fact, they cut $10 billion for the next 5 years for provinces. They bring it back $11 billion. It's what we are doing. I don't want to win an election, but I cannot stand up for a budget that is doing so little with so much. At a time where the challenges for Canada are so big, for competitiveness, or environment, or social justice, to do so little with so much is something that we as a party cannot accept. Mr. G, I'm a Liberal. I support the Liberals. I want all the Liberals to work for the Liberals.
Which part of the GST or the income tax points? There's nothing on there, so it's always the will of the federal government to give or not to give money. On the other hand, when they're pretending giving $3.4 billion the second year, we calculate $2.8 billion. But the third year, with the progression of 7% for health services, the amount is $3.224 billion. So it's 80% of what we were asking, remember, $3.9 billion. So we think there's still work to do. The major difference is certainly within the equalization payments. The formula is different now. It concerns the 10 provinces, and the choice between excluding the non-renewable natural resources, or half of them. So it gives more money for Quebec for equalization payments. For the payment transfer, it's the continuation of the market budget.
I'm here with my colleague Dan Mittag of the Liberal Party. And Dan, what did you think of the budget?
I thought the budget was a lot of smoke and mirrors. I thought this was supposed to be painted as a great announcement to help ordinary Canadians. I don't see a lot of help here for families. I certainly didn't see it for students who are laden with heavy debt right now. All I saw was a continuation of the ESP program to those who happen to have an extra $14,000 sitting around at the end of the year. Most disappointed, though, I think generally about the lack of precision for people between the ages of 18 and 64. Between seniors and ordinary working families are not going to benefit under Mr. Flaherty's scheme. I represented Mr. Flaherty's riding. Average families in that riding don't earn $37,000. They earn a lot more than that. There's not a lot in this budget for them. The biggest issue of the day is the issue of gasoline, the cost of energy, affordability. None of that was mentioned here. Also a concern about our wounded soldiers and the fact that they're not getting a lot out of this. They're getting a lump sum payment if they're wounded. They'll have to basically look after themselves, save and except for medical for the rest of their lives, and that's unfair.
Now, Dan, you've been pioneering a bill here in the House of Commons for some time to make RESPs tax deductible and to provide some real meaningful relief for families. Has Flaherty gone partway there?
No, he hasn't gone anywhere. Garth, what he's done is in fact compounded the problem. We've been trying to go after middle income families, those who might not have the ability to put let alone $100 down at the end of the month to get the minimum qualifying. He's basically said, if you've been able to come up with $14,000 or the $4,000 that I'm going to give you as a max every year and top that up with a 20%, then you can put up as much as $18,000. That'll help a certain constituency of Canadians, but it's not going to help, I submit, people within his own riding who I believe in general would like to see that this become tax deductible. I think it's an important message to Canadians that with the exception of a few members of the New Democrats and the Conservative Party, parliamentarians overwhelmingly understand the need to make this tax deductible so we get more people behind in schools, in higher education in order to compete with the world. That's key. And one of the most key elements in terms of having a competitive society. Flaherty on that score simply missed the opportunity.
All right, last point, Dan. You and I both represent sort of middle class, middle income, suburban type ridings. What do you think our people are going to say, our constituents? Enough in here for the average family?
I don't think there's enough here for the average family. I mean, I'm a father of 5 children. I may be happy with the fact that there might be a $200, $300 savings here, but it doesn't go to the core of what hard-working ordinary middle-class Canadians are looking for. They wanted income tax relief here, and this government last year perpetuated this myth that somehow they were reducing income taxes when in fact they increased it. I fully expected Mr. Flaherty to come out today and say, I'm going to rectify that problem, I'm going to drop income taxes to help Canadians to choose where they're going to spend. Not this nonsense about the GST. The reality is that they did nothing of the sort, and a lot of this is really smoke and mirrors. Now, they've blown away $12, $13 billion. If I look at the way in which we've been cutting the debt in the past to reduce the amount of money the government's had to put forward to servicing that debt, we may very well get a negative response from the international community saying Canada's back up to getting very close to the point where it's borrowing again. I hope that's brought into the equation because that's not good for any Canadian.
All right, Dan Mattick, thank you very much.
Appreciate that, Garth.
Pleasure. Okay.
Why have you decided to support this budget?
Because what we were asking was to settle the fiscal imbalance. It's not done with this budget because there's two aspects, I would say, to settle the fiscal imbalance. One is the amount of money. On that basis, on 3 years, the result is $3 billion and $224 million. We were asking for 3.9. It's 80% of the amount. Not bad. But nothing concerning the mechanism. Because it's always a decision made by Ottawa. Mechanism means you have to give the fiscal a new fiscal deal. Some points of GST or points of income
tax
points. There's nothing on that. So we say, but we can't let $3 billion and $224 million away. I'm pretty confident that next Monday we'll have a new Prime Minister in Quebec, Mr. Beauclair. And the sovereignist government will know what to do with that money. It's our money, and mechanism, the best way to solve that problem is certainly to win a referendum on sovereignty.
Did you consulted with Mr. Beauclair before you made your decision, and you agreed, I guess, that this would not be enough to give the Liberals an edge in the election campaign?
I mean, the government which produced the report on the fiscal imbalance was a PQ government on Ottawa. The party who filed here in the House of Commons concerning the fiscal imbalance, the other parties didn't even know what that meant. It was a Bloc Québécois.
What they are doing with their 2 budgets and what we were planning to do as an increase with the transfer to provinces, in 5 years from now, the provinces will have only $1 billion more than what we would have done with us. So would have increased the transfer to provinces much more than what they have done.
Now, the Bloc Québécois says it will support this budget. So does that put the Liberals in an awkward position? You need to rebuild in Quebec. This government is saying that it's made history and sending more money to Quebec,
But
solving
it's not true. And the Bloc may pretend it's true if they want, but it's not true for Quebec this year. It's only 700 million more.
It's not tricky politics for you and the
It's
Liberals,
tricky,
so in
it's
Quebec?
tricky politics for the Conservatives, giving to Quebec only $700 million more than what the Martin Goodale budget would have done. $700 million more when in the last years when we were there, we increased the transfers to Quebec and to many provinces, but we speak about Quebec, by about 1.3 or 1.2 billion every year. So their increase is modest if you compare with what we have done.
How hard is it, though, to fight this numbers game? If you have the Liberals in Quebec saying they're happy with this, if you have the opposition party here saying they're happy, then how hard is it for you to fight this fight and say your numbers would be better were you in government?
Don't think I will be alone. All the experts will do their computation, and they will say that they will see that these numbers are helium inflated.
Yes?
Completely.
Helium inflated?
Exactly. Thank you for the help. Exactly. It's what it is. And I'm sure over the next hours or days, many experts will make the computation, will compare what they are increasing really with what they are saying, and they will look as not very honest with the Canadian people.
And yet it's a big spending budget, especially surprising to many people who thought Conservatives would not spend that much. With something, it seems like something for everyone, and still you're saying it's not enough.
What I'm saying is that I've never seen a government do so little with so much. And it's why we cannot support such a budget that will not help our country with the terrible challenges we have to face in terms of competitiveness, social justice, almost nothing to fight poverty in this budget.
Money for families?
Almost nothing for families. And also this idea that they are the best 12 provinces, this will appear as not true.
Monsieur Dion, merci. Thank you.
Thank you so much.